الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the best of this dunya and the abilities to do good deeds and to attain His pleasure. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the best of endings, with the best of speeches, with the best of actions, so that we will be resurrected on the last day, which will be the best of our days. This is another session where we're looking at the Meemiyyah of al-Qayyim rahimahullah. And in today's session, inshallah, he's going to be talking about how temporary the life of this dunya is. So we're on verse 112, and he says, وَلَوْ تُبْصِرُ الدُّنْيَا وَرَاءَ سُطُورِهَا رَأَيْتَ خَيَالًا فِي مَنَامٍ سَيُسْرَمُ. He says, rahimahullah, if you were to see the dunya from behind its curtains, you will see that your imagination in your sleep, you will see the imagination in your sleep as if it is a dream. And sayusramu. Yusram is when something is cut off. So you will see the imagination and then you will see it being cut off. كهلم بطيف زار في النوم وانقضى المنام وراه الطيف والصب مغرم. Like a dream which entices the visitor. But when the dream is over, the enticement leaves him and its infatuation is poured over his head. And what he is saying here, and this is the explanation of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, this is the reality of the dunya. It's like a dream that a person sees. He sees something and he likes it, so it entices him. But then when he wakes up and the dream is over, what does he do? He constantly thinks about what he saw in the dream, because he's been attracted towards it now, but it's a dream. So constantly he's thinking, if only I could have it, if only I could have it. But this is the dunya. This is the nature of the dunya, as Ibn al-Qayyim is saying here. It's like a dream of a person who is sleeping. It brings him in, and then when he wakes up, he realizes that it wasn't anything. So Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is saying here, think about your life. Think about your life. And think about how you have lived your life. When you were young, you used to play with your friends, not a care in the world. What happened to all those people? Whilst you played, you carried on thinking as if this life is all about play. It's like the dream that he has mentioned. But soon when you wake up, you realize that all these people that you're playing around, they've all gone. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is saying here, use the past as a lesson for your future. The people in the hereafter will say that they were only in the dunya for a day or part of a day, or morning or in the afternoon. This is the dunya. You are sleeping, it brings you in, you become attracted to it, and then when you wake up, you realize it wasn't anything there. And the people who are deceived by the life of the dunya, they're constantly thinking about something which is just a mirage. وَذِلٍّ أَرَدْتُهُ الشَّمْسُ وَإِنْدَ طُلُوئِهَا سَيَقْلِسُ فِي وَقْتِ الزَّوَالِ وَيَفْسِمُ. He says, rahimahullah, like a shade that the sun covers when it rises. So when the sun rises in the morning, the shade covers that thing. But what happens to that shade? He's saying here, سَيَقْلِسْمُ فِي وَقْتِ الزَّوَالِ وَيَفْسِمُ. The shade slowly starts to shorten. And then when he gets to Zawal, which is midday, there is no shade left. And this is a parable that was given to us by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that the life of this dunya is like a person who is riding and then he rests under a shade and then he moves on. So what happens to the shade after the traveller moves on? This is what he is saying here. Soon, the dunya, there will be no shade left. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is saying the morning shade is pleasant. Now here the author Ibn al-Qayyim is saying here, وَذِلِّ رَأَتْهُ الشَّمْسُ عِنْدَ طُلُوئِهَا. When the sun rises in the morning, Ibn Taymiyyah is saying here, that's the most pleasant time to enjoy the sun. It's cool, it's calm, you can see it. So here he is saying that this is now the specific wording on the parable is like the life of this dunya. in the beginning it seems as if it's really nice. But as the day goes on and the sun rises, the day's heat intensifies quickly. And this is what Al-Qayyim is saying here. This is the example of the dunya that he is giving. Everything moves quickly. In the beginning it starts off nice, and then it becomes harmful. And then all that remains is recompense. That's it. When you leave the life of this dunya, what's left? You're accountable for it. Even the halal of it, you're accountable for it. And the haram for it is a punishment. And then when you moved on, it's as if the life didn't exist, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroys it. As for the akhirah, that is permanent and everlasting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not destroy it. Line 115. ومزنة صيف طاب منها مقيلها فولى سريعا وفرور تدرم. Like a cloud that shades him in the summer, but then it moves on quickly, and then the heat returns back to him and it's intense. Similar to what we have said about the shade, he's given us another example of a shade, but this time it's the cloud. On a hot day when the shade comes in, it's cooling, it's refreshing. But how long does that shade last for? How long does that cloud cover you for? Until what happens? The dunya burns you again. ومطعم ضيف لذ منه مساغه وبعد قليل حال تلك تعلم. Or another example of the life of this dunya is food which is served to a guest. Its delights are given to the guest for that guest to enjoy. But how long does the guest stay for? So he says, Ibn al-Qayyim, not long after, the guest leaves, and then it is over. وَتُعْلَمُ. And you know this. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is saying here, this is an amazing description. And added to this is the fact that the guest, which is us now in the life of the dunya, he doesn't know how long he is going to stay. He doesn't know when he will have to respond to the call of Allah, meaning death. So Ibn Taymiyyah is saying here, if you are alive in the morning, don't wait until the evening. Don't trust that you have that long left. And if you are alive in the evening, don't wait until the morning. Is anyone guaranteed beyond that? Ibn Taymiyyah is saying here, is anyone guaranteed? We've made the evening now. Are you guaranteed morning? Is there anyone in this dunya that is guaranteed to see tomorrow morning? Therefore, this dunya has no goodness in it, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us here in order for us to harvest for the akhirah. That is the only reason. So if you are harvesting and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes you, He has taken you upon goodness, irrespective of how young or old you are. Because you've used your time here for the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put you here. But if you think you've got a guarantee, and if your hope stretches forward, the Shaykh is saying here, this person has no goodness in his dunya, because he is not using the dunya to harvest for his akhirah, even if he lives to be in his 80s and his 90s. 117. كَذَا هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا كَأَحْلَامِ نَائِمٍ. This is how the dunya is, like a dream of a sleeping person. وَمِن بَعْدِهَا دَارُ الْبَقَاءِ سَتَقَدَّمُ. And after that, he will wake up, and that's where the permanent land is, and that's where he will be moved to. فجزها ممر لا مقر وكن بها غريبا تعيش فيها حميدا وتسلم. So portion it for yourself, the life of this dunya. فجزها meaning portion it. Give yourself some rations as you are passing and you are not staying. وكن بها غريبا, be in it as if you are a stranger. تعيش فيها حميدا, and if you were to do this, you will live a life of praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fulfilling His commands and obedience. And with Taymiyyah in commentary, he says, you will then live, because you are preparing for the return, you are living as a stranger. If you live in the life of this dunya as a stranger, you will live praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and submitting to Him. Because you are not attaching yourself to the life of this dunya. But if a person takes the dunya as a place of residence, he will not live in this dunya praising Allah and submitting to Him. 119. O Ibn Sabil, قال في ذل دوهة وراها وخلى ذلها يتقسم. Or like a passerby, if you've got a person who is passing through a city, he passes through the city, he relaxes, he sleeps in its shade, and then he leaves it. What does he leave behind? وَخَلَّ ذِلُّهَا يَتَقَسَّمُ. He leaves the shade behind. He has taken his share and he has left it. This person is the clever one. 120. أخا صفر لا يستقر قراره إلى أن يرى أوطانه ويسلم. Traveling, moving forward, not staying behind and not settling in the dunya. Because what he wants to do is to reach his actual destination. And when he reaches his destination, that's when he will relax. فَيَا عَجَبًا كَمْ مَسْرَعٍ وَعَذَتْ بِهِ بَنِيهَا وَلَكِنْ أَنْ مَصَارِئِهَا عَمَرُوا. So how amazing, how many people have been warned, but when they wrestled with the dunya, they became blind. When they wrestled with the dunya, it overtook them, and then they became blind. Ibn Taymiyyah, he says, we see so many people. They have something, but then they lose it. And then what they do is they seek this happiness with the people. For these people, death is better than them remaining like this in the dunya. Death is better for these people than remaining like this in the dunya. Because these people are experiencing a fall after having honor. How many people have built for themselves a dunya, but they never actually lived in it? When he says here, death is better for these people, he's saying rhetorically, meaning, what purpose do you have? What he's saying here, how many people have lived in this dunya, but they never actually lived in it? How many people have spent years and years and years and years building something for themselves in the dunya, houses and cars and riches? How many people have planted seeds but never ate from its fruits? So how do we learn from this? Ibn Taymiyyah is saying here, it's not about crying and shaking our heads when we are reminding about the dunya. He said it's about actually taking a lesson and changing. That's why there is no more delight in this dunya except for a person who is using the dunya to do good deeds and preparing himself in the akhirah. مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَىٰ, whoever does good deeds, irrespective male or female. وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, and he is a believer. فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةٌ طَيِّبَةٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give this person a wonderful life. And this is the point that he is making with Taymiyyah rahimahullah. The delights of this dunya are found in you preparing for the akhirah. Without that, there is no delight. سقطهم كؤوس الحب حتى إذا نشوا سقطهم كؤوس السم وقوم نوموا. He's saying here, rahimahullah, the life of this dunya is like a vessel, and people fill this vessel up with love of the life of this dunya. When they drink from it, they are intoxicated. And when they fall, because when they sober up, they realize that they fill this vessel up not with love, but with poison. كَأُوسِ السُّمِّ الْقَوْمُ نَوَّمُوا. And people are sleeping doing this, meaning they are negligent. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, an explanation. These people are deceived. They thought they had won because they've got a glass of wine, but in actual fact, that glass of pleasure was a plot against themselves. وَأَعْجَبُ مَا فِي عَبْدِ رُؤْيَةُ هَذِهِ الْعِظَامِ وَالْمَغْرُورُ فِيهَا مُتَيَّمُ. The most amazing sight is that a person with these calamities, he is deceived. وَالْمَغْرُورُ فِيهَا مُتَيَّمُ. He is deceived, And because of him being deluded, his sense, his intellect has left him. And he spoke the truth, rahimahullah. How many people are intelligent, really intelligent people, but because of the fact they've been deceived in life of this dunya, where is their intelligence? وَمَا ذَاكَ إِلَّا أَنَّ خَمْرَةَ حُبِّهَا. Why is this? Except the intoxication of his love. This love of the dunya is a khamr. لَتَسْلُبُ عَقْلُ الْمَرْءِ مِنْهُ وَتَسْلِمُ. His intellect is wiped away because of this intoxication, and he is cut off from his actual senses. وَأَعْجَبُ مِنْ ذَا أَنَّ أَحْبَابِهَا الْأُولَى تُهِينُ وَلِلْأَعْدَاءِ تُرْعِي وَتُكْرِمُ وَلِلْأَعْدَاءِ تُرَائِي وَتُكْرِمُ. And what is more astonishing than this one is that there is a person, he loves the dunya. He loves the dunya, everything inside of it. But he's being ridiculed because of his love of the dunya, and he doesn't even realize it. And his enemies have ambitions against him, they are plotting against him, and all the while he thinks that he is gaining nobility in the life of this dunya. Uthaymeen rahimahullah says this is a problem. Here, now we've said this last week as well, and he's kind of saying the same thing again. Here, this person, most people, if you think about it, most people in the life of this dunya, they don't achieve what they want to achieve. Isn't that a fact? How many people want to become millionaires? How many people want to have certain aspirations for themselves, but they don't achieve it? Uthaymeen is saying the same here. Most people, they're just normal people. They're the lowest of the people of the dunya. Despite you being so low, and not really achieving anything, he loves the dunya, but he has nothing from it. How does that even make any sense? He has love for the dunya, but he's not even gained anything from it. His state is more astonishing, Uthaymeen is saying here, than a person who has the dunya. This person, his state is so astonishing because he is low, he has nothing from it, and then what does he do? All of his worries and anxieties and stress. He has no sleep and rest for the sake of the dunya, which he's not going to get anyway. His knowledge, his objectives, everything is dunya, dunya. And this is why he's saying here, وَأَعْجَبُ مِنْ ذَا أَنْ أَحْبَابِهَا الْأُولَى تُهِينُ وَالْأَدَاءِ تُرَائِي وَتُكْرِمُ. What is more astonishing than this person who loves the dunya is a person who loves the dunya, yet he's being ridiculed within it. And his enemies are plotting against him, meaning his ambitions are his enemies. They're plotting against him, and he thinks he is showing nobility in him chasing this life. وَذَلِكَ بُرْهَانٌ عَلَىٰ أَنَّ قَدْرِهَا جَنَاهٌ بَعُودَةٍ أَوْ أَدَقُّ وَأَلْأَمُ. And now this is proof that his share is like the wing of a mosquito. One known hadith in At-Tirmidhi, the Messenger of Allah said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, had he not seen the life of this dunya or honored the life of this dunya more than the wing of a mosquito, he wouldn't have given any disbeliever sharbat ma, not even a drop of water to drink. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has belittled the life of this dunya, and because it is nothing with him, he gives the people of dunya whatever they want. But had the dunya meant something with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would have prevented. Just like we see in the akhir in Jannah. So this is what he is saying here. This is proof that his share, even if he gets the whole of the dunya and all that is in it, is like the size of a mosquito wing, which is easily replaceable. So what's the end for this person? Nothing but anguish. وحسبك ما قال الرسول ممثلا لها وللدار الخلد والحق يفهم. Sufficient for you is what the Messenger of Allah said. A simile for this, the eternal land, and it is true, so it should be understood. كما يدلي الإنسان في اليم أسبوعا وينزعها منه فما ذاك يغنم. Like a man, and this is the hadith, the Messenger of Allah he said, that if a person... Now this is actually a long hadith where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in a hadith Qudsi, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَوَّلَكُمْ وَآخِرَكُمْ, had the first of you and the last of you, وَحَيِّكُمْ وَمَيِّتُكُمْ, your alive ones and your dead ones, meaning from the beginning of man up until now, اجتمعوا في سعيد واحد, you all gathered in one place, and you asked me, every single one of them, I would give to them whatever it is that they wanted. And that would not, مَا نَقَصَ ذَلِكَ مِن مُلْكِي, that would not diminish me in my dominion in the slightest. إِلَّا كَمَا لَوْ أَنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ, except, now this is the parable, and this is what Ibn al-Qayyim is saying here, except for if a person was to dip his finger into the ocean, ثُمَّ رَفَعَ إِلَيْهِ, and then he takes it out. What does he have at the tip of his finger compared to the ocean? Nothing. This is going to evaporate in moments. And this is the parable that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving in this hadith. Not that if a person keeps dipping it, then eventually the sea will diminish. That's not the point. The point here is look at the comparison. So this is what he is saying here. وَحَسْبُكَ مَا قَالَ الرَّسُولُ مُمَثِّلًا, sufficient for you is what the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has left for you as an example. لَهَا وَلِلدَّارِ الْخُلْدِ, the ocean. وَالْحَقُّ يَفْهَمُ, and what is on here is not the everlasting land. So understand it. This is a hadith in al-Tirmidhi, and it's being made Sahih by Shaykh al-Albani. But the hadith actually goes on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in hadith Qudsi to the Messenger of Allah to tell us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says, ذَلِكَ بِأَنِّي جَوَادٌ وَاحِدٌ مَاجِدٌ, this is because I am Jawad, I am the most generous, I am the most giving, I am alone, and I am Majid, I am the one who has Majd, dominion, splendor. أفعل ما أريد, I do as I want. Allah subhanahu. أطاعي كلام وعذابي كلام, my giving is my order, my speech, and my punishment is my order through my speech. إنما أمر لشيء إذا أردت أن أقول له كن فيكون. If I want something to happen, I says be, and it becomes. That's the remainder of the hadith. But Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah is saying here, now if you look at the context of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has praised himself subhanahu, Ibn al-Qayyim is saying here, then what do you want? Do you want how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has described the ocean, or do you want the drop? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to seek what is with Him, because He is Jawad and Wahid and Majid, and He does as He pleases subhanahu. ألا ليت شعري هل أبيتن ليلة على هذر منها وأمرئ مبرم. If only I was able to sleep with my caution, Ibn al-Qayyim is saying here, if only if I was able to sleep with my caution, but my situation is too draining. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah says, meaning, how can a person and sleep and rest easy in the life of this dunya? Surely the person who has concern for the akhirah cannot rest. وَهَلْ أَرِدْنَا مَاءَ الْحَيَاءِ وَأَرْتَوِي عَلَى ذَمَئٍ مِنْ حَوْضِهِ وَهُوَ مُفْعَمُ. Do you want the water of life? Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah saying here, the water of life refers to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sharia of Allah. Do you want the water of life? Meaning, do you want the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, drawing from its well, which will quench you from your thirst, and you will be drinking directly from its pool? And the opposite could be understood also, meaning, if people don't have water, or the water of life, then what are they quenching? They are living in thirst and starvation. فَيَا أَسَفِي تفنى الحياة وتنقضي وذا العتب باق ما بقيتم وعشتم. There are a few lines that I've skipped, and that is because there are certain things that he has said here which is a bit repetitive. But now this is line 134. So he says, فَيَا أَسَفِي تفنى الحياة. So what has happened to me? My life has passed me by. وَذَا عَتْبُ بَاقٍ but my tiredness remains. And this is the life that you have had. Allahu Akbar. What he has said is true. You speak to a person in his 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. What remains with this person is just tiredness. What has he gained with that tiredness? Has he secured for himself the pleasure of Allah and a place in the Akhirah? فَيَا أَسَفِي تَفْنِ الْحَيَاةِ What is wrong with me? My life is gone. وَتَنْقَضِي It's all gone, it's finished. It's all been used up. I can't get it back. وَذَا عَتْبٌ بَاقٍ But I still remain tired. Waiting. وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَغْضَبْ سِوَاكُمْ فَلَا إِذَا كُنْتُمْ أَنْ أَبْدِكُمْ قَدْ رَدِيتُمُ The end of my patience on your desires is a good one, but the end of it for you is sinful. Here Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah is talking about desires and the people who will give in to their desires and follow their desires. Meaning Uthaymin is saying here, if we live a life of sin, we try to be patient, but we keep going back to those sins. But if a person is patient and he protects himself from his desires, that person will obviously have a good end. But if a person carries on being patient on his desires, then he will only have a sinful end. Therefore, the person who is patient, because there is not any one of us except that they have flaws and they have things that they need to work on. So Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah is saying here, the end of my patience with my desires, meaning I'm being patient and striving, is a good one. And Uthaymin rahimahullah is saying here, this is hope for us all. But for the people who have no patience, meaning they are patient upon their desires, not with their desires, upon them, meaning fulfilling their desires, then their end is nothing but a bad one. فَيَا سَاهِيًا فِي غَمْرَةِ الْجَهْلِ وَالْهَوَىٰ O negligent one, living in the darkness of ignorance and desires, صَرِيعُ الْأَمَانِ عَنْ قَرِيبٍ سَيَنْدَمُ The insanity of hope is close to your remorse. Meaning, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is saying here, this now, Ibn al-Qayyim is calling out and advising all of the people who are negligent in the life of this dunya. But here, if you look at the wording, and this is from the balagha and the rhetoric of the Arabic language, فَيَا سَاهِيًا Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is saying here, Ya harf al-nida, meaning he is calling out. That then means it's general for everyone. He's not calling to one group of people, he's telling everyone. He's calling out into the wilderness where there are two clouds, as he is saying, Ibn al-Qayyim himself. Two clouds. A cloud of ignorance, jahl, ghamrat al-jahl wal-hawa. The second one is desires. There's a cloud of ignorance and there is a cloud of desires. These two, Ibn Taymiyyah is saying, is always surrounding any kind of fitna. Ignorance and desires. Ignorance, religion. Desires, your wants and your needs. Therefore, there's no fitna except that if a person is ignorant, he will be taken into that fitna. There is no fitna except that if a person lets his desires and his wants overtake what is right and from what is wrong, he will be taken into that fitna. Therefore, Ibn Taymiyyah is saying here, there is no fitna except that there is ignorance when it comes to halal and haram and what Allah has made obligatory and forbidden, or there is desires. The person might know, but he wants to overlook it. He goes on with Taymiyyah, this person's hopes deceive him because he thinks that there is nothing wrong with these two, meaning the person of the dunya, he thinks it doesn't matter if he's ignorant of his religion, negligent of his religion, it's fine. Or he thinks, yeah, I can take from this dunya whatever I want. Such a person is deceived by his hope. And it is feared such a person will die without making any tawbah. Why? Because there is no recognition that he is fallen into fitna. Hence in the hadith, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu at-Tirmidhi and his Sahih, al-ajiz, the person who is unable, the person who is cut off any kind of goodness, man ittaba'a nafsahu hawa, he lets himself follow his own desires. Wa tamanna ala Allah al-amani, and he has hope with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now that hope is not a good one. That hope is that one where he is allowed for himself to trick himself. And he just thinks, yeah, I'll be fine, Allah will forgive me. The Messenger of Allah has said here in this hadith, such a person is unable. Such a person is lazy. Such a person has got inability about himself to do good deeds. أفق قد دنا الوقت الذي ليس بعده سوى جنة أو حر نار تدرموا. Agree with me, Ibn al-Qayyim is saying here, that death has drawn close. دنا الوقت, that death has drawn close. After that, there is nothing except Jannah or the heat of a fire which ignites. So what's the solution? 145. وَبِالسُّنَّةٍ غَرَّاءٍ كُنْ مُتَمَسِّكًا هِيَ أُرْوَةُ الْوُثْقَى الَّتِي لَيْسَتْ تُفْصَمُ. With the shining sunnah, with the illuminating sunnah, hold firm to it. Because in this is your stick and it is your handhold which will never break. تمسك بها مسك البخيل بماله. Hold on to it like a stingy person holds on to his wealth. Hold on to the sunnah like a stingy person holds on to his wealth. وَعَدَّ عَلَيْهَا بِالنَّوَاجِزِ تَثْرَمُ. The Prophet ﷺ said, buy onto it even if you have to. And if you do this, you will be safe. وَدَعْ عَنْكَ مَا قَدْ أَحْدَثَ النَّاسُ بَعْدَهَا. And say goodbye and farewell to what those people have invented after him, meaning bid'ah. فَمَرْتَعَ هَاتَيْكَ الْحَوَادِثِ أَوْخَمُوا. For those who irrigate these newly invented matters, most of them will leave you burdensome in your life. وَهَيِّ جَوَابًا عِنْدَمَا تَسْمَعُ النِّدَاءَ. Prepare for yourself an answer when the call will be called out min Allah, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَوْمَ الْعَرْض, on a day of exhibition. مَاذَا أَجَبْتُمُ. What is your response? This is now in reference to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Qasas, chapter 28, ayah number 65. وَيَوْمَ يُنَادِيهِمْ. And on that day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call out, فَيَقُول, and He will say, مَاذَا أَجَبْتُمُ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. To all of mankind, يَوْمُ الْأَرْضِ, on the day of exhibition, Allah will call out to everyone that ever existed. What answer did you give to the messengers? Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah is saying here, وَهَيِّ جَوَابًا عِنْدَمَا. Prepare for yourself an answer now. Bihi rusuli, and he goes on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, but he is saying here in his poetic form, Bihi rusuli lamma atawkum faman yakun ajaba siwahum sawfa yakhza wa yandamu. With my messengers that came, if anyone answers with other than them, he will find disgrace and regret. وَخُذْ مِن تُقَى الرَّحْمَنِ أَعْظَمَ جُنَّةٍ. So take, for those who fear Allah subhanahu, fear ar-Rahman actually, tuqa ar-Rahman, the greatest of shields. What is the greatest of shields? Taqwa. لِيَوْمٍ بِهِ تَبْدُو عَيَانًا جَهَنَّمُ. For a day where he will see the hellfire and it will be bare in front of his face. And this is the haqq. And this is the belief of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that there will be no one, including the prophets and the messengers. Every single one of us will see hellfire plain. فَيَوْمَ فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on that day your eyesight will be sharp. No need for glasses or contacts. A person is blind in the life of this dunya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, today your eyesight will see the hellfire. عَيْنُ الْيَقِينِ حَقَّ الْيَقِينِ. You will see it. So here he is saying, وَخُذْ مِن تُقَى الرَّحْمَنِ أَعْظَمُ جُنَّةٍ. take for yourself, for those people who fear Rahman, the greatest of shields, لِيَوْمٍ بِهِ تَبْدُو عَيَانٍ جَهَنَّمُ, for a day where every single one of us will see the hellfire. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah says that day, he's now describing the fire and how it will be brought in front of us. That day there will be 70,000 angels that will be carrying the fire, dragging it. That's how big it is. 70,000 of them will be dragging the fire, dragging it, can't even lift it, they're dragging it. And with every 70,000 there's going to be another 70,000 to help the first 70,000. And the reason why Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah here is saying here, سَمِعُ لَهَا شَهِيقٌ وَهِيَ تَفُورٌ. On that day, we will see the fire, but we will also hear the fire. It will be roaring. تَكَادُ تَمَيَّزُ مِنَ الْغَيْظِ, to the extent that it will be roaring so much in its own anger, the hellfire, as if it is going to destroy itself one another. So Ibn al-Qayyim is saying, rahimahullah, وَخُذْ مِن تَقَى الرَّحْمَانِ أَعْذَمُ جُنَّةٍ. Prepare for yourself that day, prepare yourself an answer, and take for yourself a shield of taqwa, because you will see the hellfire plain and clear on that day. As he has said here, rahimahullah, the life of this dunya is nothing just but a dream. If you allow yourself to be attached to that dream, you will be deceived. You will be surrounded with fitna of ignorance and desires. But if you take for yourself from this dunya to prepare for your akhirah, and you have taqwa, you will be protected with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from being from the ignorant and from being from the people who follow their desires. And for such people they will have an answer, and for such people there will be security with Ar-Rahman. Inshallah, in the remaining section of this book, inshallah next week, he gives a description of the return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, description of the Day of Judgment, and the description of how the people will be in Jannah, and the meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the people who will reside therein. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us of them, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects us from the fitnas of the life of this dunya, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purifies us with His purification, and that He makes us of His chosen sincere servants. هذا والله أعلم. صلى اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بارك الله فيكم. This book is called Meemiyyah by Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah. I don't believe it's translated in English, but you can find it. Yeah, of course. Subhanakum.
You haven't seen the translation, right?
No.
It's like an